Right, welcome back to the channel. On today's episode, we are going to be doing a bit more work on the truck. And if you followed my previous videos, you'll see that I've put bigger tyres on the truck with bigger wheels, and they are actually fouling in all sorts of places in the front. Back not so bad, front was pretty bad. So we lifted the suspension up by two inches or so. I put a 2-inch body lift on, so the whole thing's gone up by 4 inches, but the wheels are still catching on the chassis, and obviously I can't lift the chassis up because the wheels are attached to it. So what we're going to do today is have a go at cutting some of that chassis away and hopefully give us a bit more clearance inside the wheel arches for those tyres. So here's the problem. You might just be able to see in there, the wheel is almost touching the chassis. So what we're going to do is have a go at cutting some of that chassis away. So I've marked in 50mm from there to there, and that's where I'll start my cut. And I'm going to cut across to this corner here. So if I just touch that on that mark, extend that mark up so I can see it a bit better, and draw my own hand. And if I go from there across to where that kind of curves around there. Okay, so we go up there. Mark. There, up there. Okay, so that is where I'm going to cut. Right, that's the bit cut off, and that's gone back about 1 inch now. Here's the piece I've cut off, probably about 1 inch to 30mm of material removed from there. And now I'm going to put a plate across that, which will give me the strength back into this chassis leg stuff. So let's just go like this, shall we? Okay, let's see what happens if I go like that. Okay, and then like just go rough like that and that. Okay, I'll try this up. Let's see. So if I put that plate there, I'll just trim around that edge there because I want to get a bead. I've trimmed that with a pair of scissors. Now it looks like it fits pretty much exactly. So if I now transfer this template onto my bit of steel, I think that'll be exactly right. So I've cut my bit of metal. To fit the hole where I've cut that piece off the chassis. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it on there. I'm going to tack it on, and I'm going to have to bend it slightly to shape because it kind of rocks. It kind of rocks on there like that. So what I'll do is I'll tack it on, and then I'll bend it to shape and seam weld it. There we go there. So that's our plate on, all seam welded all around. I left a little hole at the top here and a little one at the bottom, which was initially there anyway, so I suppose if any water gets in, it can just trickle out of this little hole under the bottom here. But otherwise, that's as solid as it was before. Bit of 3mm plate nicely welded in now. I'm quite pleased with that. Right, now the plate's on, I'm just going to stick the wheel back on quickly and see if it clears it. I'm pretty convinced it's going to be. It's a bit late if it don't. We're going to try the wheel on there and have a little look down the side, and I'll show you that now. I've just put the wheel back on, and as you can see now, there is like a whole hand's worth of room between the tyre and that chassis leg now, whereas before it was literally you wouldn't have been able to get your finger in there. So that's worked out perfectly. I've got some Hammerite underbody seal to spray over that, but I've got some seam sealer here, which I've used on previous jobs, and it's still flexible, so I'm going to smother that in seam sealer first because it's like a thick rubberized coating, and that will just give it a bit of protection underneath what I'm eventually going to put on as Hammerite seam sealer. So let's get some of this on, see what it looks like. Probably a right dog's dinner. Okay, just sort of spread this on. A spatula here I'm using for this because you can't paint it because it's just too thick for that. So I think if I just get a real good coating of seam sealer on all of these joints, this will give it a really good base for the overcoat. Right, that's it completely covered in seam sealer. I'll let that dry for 20 minutes and then I'm going to hit it with a load of underseal, Hammerite underseal. Right, so I've just given that newly bit of welded in plate a quick spraying over with some Hammerite wax oil, and now I'm going to put the wheel back on. Before I did that, what I've done is I've just lowered the torsion bar by like 4 turns. It's only 2 turns up now. Hopefully that'll make the truck a bit more level and bring the steering back into normal alignment, because it does feel a bit wandery at the moment because it's turned up quite so high, and hopefully with that bit of metal cut out it'll be a bit further away from it, even though I've lowered the suspension down a bit. So we're going to get the wheel back on now, and then we'll let this side down and we'll get on with the other side. Right, show you quickly under here. There's a nice bit of gap there now. Truck's back on its wheels, back on its own weight, and there's plenty of gap there. The wing is still quite close. I suppose maybe I might look to cut a bit more out of that if it causes me any trouble, but I've not heard it rubbing there, so I reckon it'll be alright for now. Right, we're around on the other side and we've skipped forward a bit because the camera had stopped recording and I didn't even realise. Okay, I think the camera went off there, but not sure what point it went off at, but obviously you can see I've attached the plate now. I'm starting to seam weld along it. I've got the welder dialed in quite nicely at the moment. So you missed that bit, sorry about that. So once I've finished all the welding, just like the other side, I coated the whole lot of it in seam sealer, and then sprayed over the top of that with a load of underbody seal just to give it that extra bit of protection. Just going to adjust this suspension down by, I need to undo it by 4 turns just to let this side down a bit like I have the other side. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, so there's your 4. So I took it up by 6. I've let it down by 4. So it's up a little bit, but not that much. So if I now just bring this back up again, you have to get the wheel on. Oop, that's good. Yes, there we are. Good. Right, hopefully that's the end of the adjustments required to get the wheels to miss the arches, because it has been a bit difficult up to now. I reckon if I turn that all the way in like that and have a little look, it's touching the mud flat, but that's just an expendable part anyway. I don't think that's going to do any damage. It is miles away from the chassis now, because yeah, a big chunk of it's been cut away. I want to do something with those mud flaps eventually anyway, because I'm not entirely happy with them. I want them that are a bit longer and a bit more compliant. So what I'm going to do is adjust them slightly, perhaps get some slightly like more rubberized ones, so that will alleviate the problem with the tyre touching the mud flap. But I'm not too worried about it touching a bit of plastic. That's not going to do any damage to anything. Job's a good one.